A figure emerges from behind a rock. A long linen duster coat covered in dust, a derby hat shading half his face. The strangest detail, his face is concealed by a flour sack with 2 holes cut for eyes. He raises a short-barreled shotgun, but he doesn't shoot. Instead, he bows like a gentleman greeting his guests. The American West, late 19th century, where every road was stained with red dust and blood was the price of freedom. This was the era of legendary gunslingers, of daring robberies, of frontier justice and flying bullets. But amid that chaos, there was one outlaw who stood apart. He didn't kill, he didn't drink. He was polite to the point of disbelief, dressed like a city gentleman, speaking with refinement, and leaving behind just 2 poems, but enough to become a legend. I've labored long and hard for bread, for honor, and for riches, but on my corns too long you've tread, Black Bart, the P.O. 8. That was Black Bart, the man who made the Wells Fargo Company tremble for 8 years. With at least 28 robberies, not a single shot fired, not a single life lost. This is the story of the man behind the mask, a tale of wounded honor, betrayal, and a gentleman who chose to become an outlaw. His real name was Charles Earl Boles. Born around 1829 in Norfolk, England, his father was John Boles, his mother Maria. Charles was the 3rd of 10 children, 7 brothers and 3 sisters. When Charles was 2, the family immigrated to Jefferson County, New York, buying a farm 4 miles north of the village of Plessis. Charles grew up like other children of his time, spirited, dreaming of distant horizons. And when the California gold rush erupted in late 1849, as the entire nation rushed westward, Charles Boles, 20 years old, along with his brothers David and James, couldn't resist. They went to the North Fork of the American River near Sacramento, panning for gold with bare hands and hearts full of hope. But like tens of thousands of others, they found only disappointment. In 1852, they returned to New York, but the dream of gold didn't fade. Charles went back to California with 2 other brothers, David and Robert. Tragedy struck. Both brothers fell ill shortly after arriving and died. Charles stayed in California for 2 more years, alone amidst grief and failure. Finally, he gave up and returned east. In 1854, he married Mary Elizabeth Johnson. By 1860, they were living in Decatur, Illinois, with 4 children, a peaceful, simple life. Perhaps the story could have ended there. But then, in 1861, cannons roared at Fort Sumter. The Civil War began. On August 13, 1862, Charles Boles enlisted as a private in Company B, 116th Illinois Infantry Regiment. He was a good soldier. Within a year, he was promoted to first sergeant. He fought at Vicksburg, one of the bloodiest battles in American history. He was gravely wounded, but survived. He joined General Sherman's March to the Sea. He was promoted to second lieutenant, then first lieutenant. On June 7, 1865, he was discharged in Washington, D.C., and returned home to his family in Illinois. But the Charles Boles who returned was no longer the man he once was. In his heart, only the unhealed wounds of war remained, and the dream of gold that never died. In 1867, he left his family again, chasing gold in Idaho and Montana. In a letter to his wife in August 1871, he wrote about an unpleasant encounter with agents of Wells Fargo and Company and swore he would have his revenge. Wells Fargo and Company, the most powerful transportation and banking empire in the West. They controlled stagecoaches. They controlled money. They controlled the roads. The exact details of Boles' encounter with Wells Fargo have been lost to history, but in his August 1871 letter, he wrote clearly, there had been an unpleasant encounter, and he vowed revenge. That was the last time Mary heard from her husband. Charles Boles vanished from his old life, and around 1875, a new man emerged. The name he chose, Black Bart, taken from a villain in the adventure story, The Case of Summerfield by Caxton, published in the Sacramento Union in the early 1870s. In the story, Black Bart was a Wells Fargo stagecoach robber, dressed in black, inspiring great fear. Boles read the story, and he decided to turn fiction into reality. July 26, 1875. The road between Copperopolis and Milton, Calaveras County, California. A Wells Fargo stagecoach was carrying money on its way to San Francisco. Driver John Shine cracked his whip, urging the horses up a hill. No one expected that. On that lonely road, a man was waiting. Bart stepped out from behind a rock, raising his shotgun. His voice was deep and resonant, but oddly polite. "Mr. Shine, please throw down the box." John Shine hesitated. Bart shouted, "If he dares to shoot, give him a solid one, boys." Shine looked around and saw rifle barrels poking out from nearby bushes. He quickly handed over the iron box. Bart vanished into the woods. Shine waited, then retrieved the empty box. But when he inspected the area, he discovered a chilling truth. The men with rifles were just carefully arranged sticks, wrapped in blankets to look like people. Black Bart's first robbery netted $160, equivalent to about $5,200 today. But what he truly stole was Wells Fargo's confidence in their safety.
Hold it right there. Throw down the Wells Fargo strongbox, if you please.
Over the next 8 years, Black Bart committed at least 28 Wells Fargo stagecoach robberies across Northern California and Southern Oregon. Not a single failure, not a single injury, not a single shot fired. His style was so unique, it became legendary. The first thing that set Bart apart, he was afraid of horses. Yes, a stagecoach robber who feared horses. He never rode like other outlaws. He walked. He fled on foot. He studied stagecoach routes for weeks, noting every turn, every steep incline. He chose rugged locations where the coach had to slow down. And when he struck, he always created the illusion of a large gang, with sticks wrapped in cloth, positioned in the bushes. He always wore a long linen duster, a derby hat, and a flour sack with eye holes as a mask. He brandished a shotgun, but never fired a single shot in all his years as an outlaw. Witnesses said he was always polite, never using crude language, except in his poetry.
Please forgive this inconvenience, madam.
Once a frightened woman was on the coach. Bart spoke gently. "Madam, don't worry. I only take Wells Fargo's money, not personal belongings." They called him the Gentleman Bandit. Police reports later described Boles, a man of remarkable endurance, displaying genuine intelligence in most difficult situations and extremely proper and polite in behavior. Avoiding vulgar language. Wells Fargo offered rewards. The press hunted him, but Black Bart remained a shadow. Though Black Bart is famous for his poetry, the truth is, he only left 2 verified poems, but those 2 poems were enough to cement his fame forever. On August 3, 1877, after robbing a stagecoach from Point Arena to Duncan's Mills, California, his 4th robbery, Black Bart left his first poem. "I've labored long and hard for bread, for honor, and for riches, but on my corns too long you've tread, you fine-haired sons of bitches." Black Bart, the P08. The last line, "sons of bitches," was the only public curse Bart ever used. This wasn't just poetry. It was a declaration of war. San Francisco newspapers went wild. The poem was printed on front pages. People laughed, debated, admired. Wells Fargo was furious. Nearly a year later, on July 25, 1878, After robbing a stagecoach from Quincy to Oroville, California, his fifth robbery, Bart left his second and final poem. Here I lay me down to sleep to wait the coming morrow, perhaps success, perhaps defeat, and everlasting sorrow. Let come what will, I'll try it on. My condition can't be worse. And if there's money in that box, 'tis money in my purse. Black Bart, the P08. This poem was sadder, more desperate. No longer a taunt. It was the cry of a wounded soul, believing his situation couldn't be worse. After that, no more poems. But the robberies continued. 23 more over the next 5 years. Bart had become a legend, and every legend has an end. November 3rd, 1883, Funk Hill, southeast of Copperopolis. The exact spot of his first robbery 8 years earlier, the 28th robbery, and his last. The stagecoach, driven by Reason McConnell, was crossing Reynolds Ferry on the old road from Sonora to Milton. McConnell stopped at the ferry to pick up Jimmy Roleri, the 19-year-old son of the ferry owner. Roleri carried a rifle to hunt along the creek. As the coach climbed the hill, Bart stepped out from behind a rock, raising his shotgun. He forced McConnell to unhitch the horses and lead them over the hill. Bart tried to remove the strong box, but it was bolted to the coach floor. It took time. Roleri and McConnell crested the hill and saw Bart leaving with the strong box. McConnell grabbed Rolleri's rifle, fired 2 shots, both missed. Roleri took the rifle back, firing as Bart fled into the bushes. Bart stumbled, as if hit. They followed into the bushes, finding a small bundle of blood-stained letters Bart had dropped. Bart was wounded in the hand. He ran a quarter mile, stopping to wrap his hand with a handkerchief to stop the bleeding. He found a hollow log, hid the sack containing the gold amalgam inside, keeping only $500 in gold coins. He hid his shotgun in a tree hollow, discarded everything else, and fled. But this time he left clues, spectacles, some food, and a handkerchief marked with the laundry tag FXO7. Wells Fargo detective James B. Hume, who had hunted Black Bart for 8 years, finally had a lead. He and Detective Harry N. Morse canvassed San Francisco, asking every laundry about the FXO7 mark. After about 90 laundries, they found it. Ferguson and Biggs California Laundry on Bush Street. The handkerchief belonged to a gentleman named Charles E. Bolton, living in a modest boarding house. When questioned, Bolton initially denied everything, but the detectives discovered he claimed to be a mining engineer and frequently went on business trips that coincided with Wells Fargo robberies. Boles finally admitted to robbing some Wells Fargo stagecoaches, but only confessed to crimes before 1879, believing the statute of limitations had expired. When arrested, he gave the name T.Z. Spaulding, but police found a Bible, a gift from his wife, inscribed with his real name, Charles E. Boles. Wells Fargo only prosecuted the final robbery, the one with the clearest evidence.
6 years in the state penitentiary.
Boles was convicted in 1884 and sentenced to 6 years in San Quentin prison. No drama, no tragedy, just a tired man confessing, "I am Black Bart. I never shot anyone." In prison, he was a model inmate. He read books, wrote poetry, taught other prisoners to read. He caused no trouble, made no complaints. His health declined. He aged visibly. His eyesight faded. He went deaf in one ear. But he maintained his dignity to the end. January 1888, after 4 years with good behavior, Charles Boles was released early. His health was frail, his hair white, his eyesight poor, deaf in one ear, but still a gentleman. As he walked out of the prison gates, reporters swarmed him. One asked, "Will you rob stagecoaches again?" Boles smiled. "No, gentlemen. I'm done with crime." "Will you write more poetry?" He laughed. Didn't you hear me say I'm done with crime? Boles never returned to his wife Mary, though he wrote to her. In one letter he wrote, "I'm tired of being shadowed by Wells Fargo. I feel depressed and want to stay away from people." February 28, 1888, the last time anyone saw Charles Boles. Detective Hume reported that Wells Fargo traced him to the Visalia House Hotel in Visalia. The hotel owner said, a man matching Boles's description checked in and was never seen again. No death record, no medical records, no grave. Charles E. Boles vanished like a shadow. After his disappearance, rumors about Black Bart spread like wildfire. On November 14, 1888, 9 months after Boles vanished, another Wells Fargo stagecoach was robbed by a masked bandit. The robber left a poem. "So here I've stood while wind and rain have set the trees a-sobbing and risked my life for that damn box that wasn't worth the robbing." Detective Hume was called in. After comparing the handwriting, he declared, this was an imitator, not the real Black Bart. But where did Charles Boles go? Victoria Tudor, Marysville Cemetery Commissioner, claimed Boles lived in Marysville, California in his final years, working as a pharmacist. Some said he was buried in an unmarked grave at Knight's Landing Cemetery in California. Johnny Thacker, a Wells Fargo detective involved in Boles's capture, claimed in 1897 that he believed Boles had gone to live in Japan. Some said he went to Mexico, living under an alias. Others said he died peacefully with family in Iowa. The truth? No one knows. Perhaps that's exactly what Charles Boles wanted. A man who lived two lives, one as a husband, father, honorable veteran, the other as Black Bart, the most refined outlaw of the West. And when both lives ended, he chose silence as his final poem. Black Bart, the robber who used poetry, not guns. At least 28 robberies in 8 years. Not a single shot fired, not a single life lost. Just 2 poems, but enough to become an immortal legend. Charles Earl Boles was no hero, nor was he a villain. He was a man scarred by war, betrayed by the powerful, trying to hold on to honor in a world with no place for it. He chose revenge, but in the manner of a gentleman. No killing, no violence, only taking money from Wells Fargo, the company he believed had stolen his dreams. His 2 poems, one full of rage, one full of despair, were the voice of thousands of ordinary people crushed by the wheels of history. In an era where the law belonged to the wealthy, Black Bart became a symbol of resistance, robbing the powerful but never harming the innocent. And perhaps that's why we still remember him, because in each of us, there's a little Black Bart, someone who wants justice, but in their own way. Someone who wants to be remembered not for bullets, but for principles. One immortal legend, and somewhere on the dusty red roads of California, perhaps the shadow of Black Bart still walks, seeking justice in the way of a gentleman.